Hey, this is Ryan Kennedy, author of Beyond Nutrition. And if you're looking to be in better health and learn more about biohacking, then you should listen to the Hacked Life podcast with my good friend, Joel Elliott.
All right, I'm here with Functional Medicine Practitioner, traditional naturopath, and Board-Certified Clinical Nutritionist, and the author of Beyond Nutrition, Ryan Kennedy. Thanks for being on the show, brother.
Grateful to be here, brother.
Okay, you have an amazing background and amazing story, and I totally resonate with a lot of the things you say, but not everybody knows you. So can you kind of tell maybe like just how did you get started in naturopathy, and like was there like a day or was there a point in your life where you just realized like this is what I want to do in my life?
Yeah, true pain to purpose situation for me, Joel. I lost my mom in 2010 after a 2-year battle with cancer. And during that time, I was in high school. I didn't know a whole lot about health and wellness. And she just went through the standard of care. You know, we were a pretty average family. And so she went through chemotherapy and surgery and just listened to her oncologist that told her what you eat doesn't matter. Your lifestyle doesn't matter. Just do these therapies, take these drugs. That's your only option. And unfortunately, she passed away. And what's even more unfortunate is that during that process, as I'm sure you and your listeners are aware, her quality of life was just completely trashed because of the drugs and the different pharmaceuticals they had her on. She just felt awful, man. And so not only did she not have any extension in her life, but she also really sacrificed a lot of the quality of life for the remaining days she had left. And so this was a real turning point for me because she was 54 years old, wasn't, very
Young.
old, very young. And we weren't even like an unhealthy family. Like we eat a lot of home cooked meals. We weren't eating fast food or, doing a bunch of the standard stuff that you see most Americans doing. And so I started reevaluating my life, man. I was like, man, I don't want to die young and this is terrible. And I was obviously depressed and grieving and going through a pretty rough patch in my youth. And it really, rather than looking like, woe is me, this sucks, let me just feel like the victim, I was like, how can I equip myself with the knowledge and the tools and the strategies to make sure this doesn't happen to me, and more so to make sure I can help people like my mom who don't know about how nutrition can help impact your success rate with reversing cancer, how, certain targeted supplementation and certain enzymes and herbs and different nutrients have such a big impact on these things, and detoxification and immune support and all these variables that back then I didn't know anything about. I was like, there's got to be another way, or at least adjunct therapies that can increase your chances of survival, and more so just from a preventative standpoint. How can we avoid illness altogether? Because chronic illness sucks, dude.
Yeah.
And so that's really what brought me to the health and wellness world. And, I was very much on the fitness side of things early on, working as a personal trainer throughout undergrad. I studied kinesiology and worked in a physical therapy clinic. And then over the years of being in that world of more the fitness side, I was like, man, exercise is great. I love exercise, but when people aren't eating well, when they're not sleeping quite enough, when they're stressed out of their minds, when they're just making poor lifestyle choices, it doesn't matter if they're showing up to their workout 3 days a week or 4 days a week. You can only get so far if you don't have these other components dialed in. And so that brought me down another deep rabbit hole of learning about all the other things that go into health and all the other inputs and choices people are making and how it all comes together and creates the outcome. And so I went back to school and studied functional medicine and went a lot deeper in nutrition. And that brings me to where I am today, where I run a practice. I consult with patients worldwide via virtually. I do see some patients in person here in my office, but most virtually these days. And just spreading the good word, just like you, Joel, trying to get the information out to people and help them to really improve a lot of these various aspects to boost their quality of life more than anything. Because I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I don't know how long people are actually going to live. As much as I love longevity and anti-aging, what really matters is how you feel day to day. What's your day to day like? Are you vital and full of energy and have a good zest for life and stable mood and good sex drive and you feel strong? And all these things are the most important thing. That's at the end of the day, people say the most valuable resource we have is time. But if you're in severe pain and you're depressed and you're anxious and you feel like shit all the time isn't that valuable to you. Time is our most precious resource if you feel freaking amazing. And so that's really where I'm coming from. It's like, how can we just feel good? Because that's at the end of the day what we're all seeking.
Yeah. Love that, man. I resonate so much with your story because, and you know, sorry about your mother. I I remember also in my own life, just, you know, into bodybuilding at 18, I was bodybuilding, reading Muscle and Fitness, doing all these things. And as you know, bodybuilding and like you said, the fitness aspect is just one piece of it. And it really got me into health and wellness. But as I got older, you know, obviously consuming that much amount of protein and bodybuilding at the time, I don't know if it is now, they didn't really care too much if you're eating processed foods or whatever. It was just like, get as much protein as you can in your body, eat as
Yeah.
much whey as you need. Like, as long as you're just getting protein, that's all that matters. We don't care what the quality of the food is. And that's what the
Yeah.
discussion was back then. I don't know what it is now. But same thing. My mom got diagnosed with breast cancer she didn't die, but at an early age. And I just kind of felt like, how is a guy like me with all this knowledge on health and all these resources not able to, like, I felt helpless. I felt powerless. Like, how can I not
Yeah.
help her? Right. And it made me want to also dive deep and go learn more, because it just made me sick to my stomach, not knowing that I couldn't even just help the people close to me, but then, like you said, others, right? And so the only good thing we can say is that your pain has saved a lot of other lives, right? You've been able to impact a lot of other people so they don't have to go through it. So that's the cool part, unfortunately.
Yeah, man. We all suffer hardships and loss and tragedy in this life. And it's up to us how we're going to make sense of it and what we're going to do moving forward. And we all can play the victim. We can all feel like, wow, this sucks and this is totally unfair and this is not right. Or we can say, how can I use this as a catalyst for change, for impact, for greater purpose in my life? And I think that's a question that we all need to ask ourselves. And it's not easy. It's not an easy choice to make. It's a lot easier just to feel like, woe is me. But at the end of the day, it's like, you want to really honor the person you lost.
Yeah.
And sitting around feeling lousy is not honoring them. So the work that I do with people, the work that I do with cancer patients and just all sorts of other individuals that are undergoing chronic issues, even if it's not a chronic disease, just gut and digestion issues, brain fog, fatigue, hormone imbalances, all sorts of issues, I'm doing it in honor of my mom.
Yeah.
And so that's a big driving force for me to keep moving and to keep working and to keep pursuing the, opportunity to serve others.
Yeah. Love that, brother. Amen to that. Okay. So your background, if I look at your website, by the way, which I did, you have an amazing track record. I mean, you do everything. You got male, you can help men, women, hormones, everything. And so, we were talking before and I'm like, well, what are we going to talk about, Ryan? Like, you got so many different things. And so I think one of the neat things that we were talking about though, is a lot about gut health. And I think some of the labs and some of the tests that you really look at to, I think, get to a lot of root causes of people's health. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Similar to your work in the integrative health side of things. I'm sure you can relate to this, Joel. I'd say 8 out of 10 people that come to me for help with their health have some degree of issues with their digestion. They either that's bloating or gas or constipation or loose stool or abdominal pain after eating. I mean, I can keep going. Point is, people's guts typically aren't working great. I mean, that's the norm these days. And most of us have just accepted that as the norm because we talk to our friends, we talk to our family, and we're like, oh yeah, you're farting after dinner too. Oh yeah, you're bloated too. Like this is chill, guys. Like this is just the human body.
Ryan, on that note, when people come into your practice, and again, you have such a breadth of people that are coming, a wide variety of people that are coming in, like you said, it could be from cancer to just bloating, or it could be weight loss, right? It could just be male performance hormones. When these people are coming into you, though, is that kind of like a reoccurring theme? Like, you're like, wow, like, believe it, I know you came to me for weight loss, or I know you came to me for cancer, or I know you came to me for female hormones, but your gut is wrecked. Is that like a real common theme that you're seeing? I'm just curious.
100%. And obviously it's on a spectrum. Not everyone's gut is wrecked. They might just have like some mild issues or, I'm not that regular with my bowel movements. I might have a bowel movement 3 or 4 days a week. I'm like, you should be having bowel movement at least once a day, if not twice a day.
Yeah.
And, things like that, where it's not like they're in debilitating pain, like they have severe IBS. Well, that is the case for some people I work with. The norm is just some degree of issues with their digestion, where there's some room for improvement, and so I think a lot of us can relate to that. And
Yep.
so I love doing some testing, because if you're not testing, you're really trying to guess. And I can make some pretty good educated guesses, Joel. But at the end of the day, it's nice to have objective data and feedback. And blood testing is great, like you would do at a primary care doc's, like a medical doctor's office, and you'd run your complete blood count and your lipid profile and, you know, your hormones and all that's fantastic. I love blood work, but it doesn't tell you anything about your gut. It doesn't tell you anything about why your digestion is not right. You know, it's like, oh yeah. And most people will get the standard set of labs and just be like, yeah, you're not dying. You're healthy. You're fine.
Yeah.
You come back in a year or two.
Come
But
back
they're
when it's
like,
out of range and you're dying.
yeah. But they're like, dude, I feel terrible. Like, I got all these problems. And they're like, no, yeah, blood work's fine. Just you're fine. And then they'll come to me and I'll be like, okay, yeah, let's sort this out. I got your back. And so we'll go through, and one of the tests I really enjoy is called an organic acids test, because it's just like a big litany of all these different functional medicine markers that you can't really gather through blood work. And so it looks for the imbalances and overall dysfunction in your gut microbiome. And it accurately diagnoses things like candida or yeast overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, mold or mycotoxin exposure, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or C. diff, like Clostridium bacteria. And these are a lot of the main culprits of why people are having the bloating and the fermentation in the gut, why people are having some of these abnormal issues with their digestion. And then it also looks at, you know, a bunch of your vitamins, it looks at all your essential amino acids, it looks at your mitochondria and, you know, detox pathways and a whole bunch of other things, you know, your neurotransmitters. And that's what I like about it. It's just like a one-stop shop for an at-home test. You pee in a cup and it measures all these urine metabolites. So it's easy. You don't have to go in for a blood prick or go see a, you know, phlebotomist. And you mail it back, and it's like you get all this tremendous data that now we can work with this. And we could say, hey, you're deficient in these B vitamins. Maybe that's why your energy is not so great. Let's start bringing in some of the right foods that are going to be rich in these nutrients. And maybe we bring in a supplement as well if needed. So those are just some examples of the type of practical data you get from that. And I know you're familiar with this test, Joel. I'd love to hear your outlook and opinion on it, if it's something you ever utilize.
No, I think you're head on. I think you nailed it. I think that is probably one of the most bang for bang, you know, best tests you can get. I mean, a lot of these labs, as you know, they're not cheap, but like that one is pretty affordable for what you get. You get like over 70 markers.
Yep.
And it just looks at so many things. And I think if you get that data, like you're going to have a good idea. I mean, again, it's not going to test for parasites or E. coli or H. pylori, but like you're going to have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And I'll just say this for listeners. You know, my son, when he was 4 years old, I had that test ran on him. And here's the great thing. Like you said, you just pee in a cup. Like for a 4-year-old, that's great. I'm not pricking his finger. I'm not taking any blood or anything like that. And wow, the information we got back. So like you mentioned, Clostridia difficile was showed up. Right now, why is that important? And you know more than me in this area, so I'll let you kind of take it away. But you know, things like when we think about like autism or learning disorders, right, or some behavior things, and so there were some things coming up for my son. And the last thing I'll say is that I had brought my son to I'll just say he's a pretty well-known functional medicine doctor in San Francisco. At the time, he's got some books. This guy's a smart guy. I just want to say that. I brought my son to him because my son was complaining of stomach issues, kind of in the like small intestine, belly button, lower, you know, abdomen area. And he's pretty in tune with his body, you know, and I brought him there and had him checked out. And now we didn't run any labs, but he just did his diagnosis. He's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, he seems fine, right? This guy knows his stuff, guys. He knows his stuff. That left me still like there's got to be something. So anyways, long story short, had an organic acids test ran. Clostridia came up. Candida came up. So boom. Now we got a roadmap. Now we know where to go. And again, my son was having some, I don't want to just behavioral issues and some other stuff. And so and then of course the gut issues. So I really wanted to get to the root cause. And that was, thank God that was, you know, I found the right people and connected with the right people.
Yeah, great story on that. And it's something I see all the time with kids, especially because I had a physician on my podcast a couple months back who specializes in working with kids with behavioral issues and autism and who are on the spectrum and ADD, things like that. And he runs these organic acids tests for all of them because he finds it's actually the imbalances in the gut microbiome, along with some methylation and detoxification issues, all of which are on that test, that are at the root cause. And he's helped a tremendous number of kids reverse, not just like improve, but reverse their autism symptoms and all sorts of other issues with their behavior. His name is Dr. Kirk Wohler, and he's actually a physician that lectures for Great Plain Labs. They have him teach physicians how to use and interpret this test. Oh, nice. And so it was really insightful to see that connection, because a lot of people don't realize there's sometimes a deeper rooted cause that you can work on and oftentimes correct.
Yeah. Hey, man. And then that's so great, right? I mean, think about it. We both look at things from the functional medicine perspective, root cause stuff. How often do we see so many clients, right, coming in saying, hey, this is your diagnosis. This is your destiny. Your kid is autistic. Your kid is this, or you have MS. And that's it. You're labeled as that. That's your future. And it's like how rewarding and how uplifting, like you said, that it's like, man, like, no, there's a reason why, and we can actually, get to some of these root cause issues, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have solution-oriented approach where you're looking a level deeper, and you're not just saying, let's do what we can to manage these symptoms. You're like, hey, let's freaking reverse these symptoms, dude. Let's see what we can do to completely get you better than you've ever felt and healthier than you've ever been. That's my goal, not just to like, let's try and, just
let's patch it up.
Yeah. Put a little Band-Aid on and see what we can, if we can get you to function day to day.
Yeah. I'm curious, any testimonials or anything, any recent, recent clients, wins that jump out at you from doing an organic acid test, or maybe they just came in I don't know, just lethargic or just completely wrecked, or just something like that. Like we were talking about the kids with learning disabilities, and then boom, a couple, minor shifts, rebalancing the gut microbiome, and then you're seeing some.
I got it. I'll share a couple case studies with you briefly without sharing any actual information about these individuals. I had a female come to me who had been, having a lot of yeast infections, and she had been on virtually every prescription antifungal on the market, fluconazole, terbinafine, all these really heavy antifungal drugs, and it wasn't helping. And her medical doctor wanted her to take these consistently for a year. And she's like, listen, I've done it for like 4 or 5 months. It's not helping. Like, I don't think going another 6 months is going to be a difference. And so we got connected through a referral, and I got her on, we ran the test to diagnose what exactly was going on. And I got her on a protocol. And, a big thing with the candida or fungal overgrowth is really coupling biofilm disrupting enzymes, because these organisms have this outer layer that make them more resilient to some of the antifungal agents that, whether it's pharmaceutical or natural. And so you want to use these specific systemic enzymes you take on an empty stomach to break down that biofilm, so that then the herbs, which I use, or any antifungal agent, but I like to use herbs, things like paradioarco, oregano, fatty acids like caprylic acid or eudemic acid. These are really amazing natural antifungals that have broad spread benefits to the body. So you're not dealing with a host of side effects. You're actually dealing with multi beneficial angles that they're taking. And so we went through a protocol, then we bring in the right types of probiotics to rebalance the good flora in her gut. And she has been, not only did we completely resolve the thrush she was suffering with for a couple of years, but she's just felt better than she's ever felt. And we did a lot, changes to her diet and lifestyle and sleep and stress and a whole bunch of other things as well. But that was really awesome to see. And then another guy I've been working with was going through a lot of really mental challenges, Joel. He was going through a lot of anxiety, getting panic attacks, and he didn't have any topical fungal issues really, like no, toenail fungus, no like athlete's foot, nothing like that. But he was just like mentally not in a good place and having like really severe symptoms, crippling, to where he wasn't able to work and to where he moved back home because it was just really gnarly. And so he went and saw a bunch of specialists. He went to this 5-day intensive, like, I guess I wouldn't call it a retreat. It was more like some sort of patient type of inpatient type of immersive therapy for, with all these neurosurgeons and psychologists and just people trying to figure out like what's going on. Where did you go from totally functioning and being fine to where like every little thing derails you because you're so sensitive to everything, and mentally you're just having a tough time with everything. And we did an organic acid test and identified some of the gut imbalances he was doing. Within the first week, Joel, of working with this guy, he's like, you've helped me more than like the 24 specialists I've seen over the last year and a half. And, we were just making simple changes. And I'm like, I can't believe, like, this is not like he saw one doctor or two doctors. He had seen a litany of physicians, all of which just wanted to put him on different medications, some of which he took, which only made him worse. And just by making some of these shifts, he felt immediately better. Then over the last couple of months, this guy is like 95% recovered to where he is fully functional. He's feeling freaking amazing. He's been a complete rock star. So, I mean, it's amazing what you can do when you start to identify what's imbalanced, and then you correct those imbalances. And the body is a very resilient organism. So when you give it the right inputs and you make the right changes, freaking miraculous things can happen.
Yeah, love that. I couldn't agree more. I mean, and we see it too. I always say, like, you just said it beautifully. If you get the body the right input, the body knows how to heal itself. It just needs the right input. Yeah. And, talking about B vitamins and stuff, if your gut is wrecked, you're not producing B vitamins, you're not producing serotonin, dopamine, you're not producing melatonin so that you can actually sleep at night. So
exactly, it's
no wonder that you balance this guy's gut, and wow, lo and behold, all these other things are working for him. So that's really cool to hear. And I just love stories like that. I could talk to you all day about we could do an entire 2-hour episode on just organic acid tests. Bottom line is, if you have gut health or any other issues, go see Ryan. He knows his stuff. But I know we're running close on the hour. We had a couple of snafus when it came to getting this podcast going. I know we both have some commitments later. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, about breath work, because you also are heavily into breath work, but you don't do just like everyone knows Wim Hof at this point, right? Everyone knows that. Everyone knows yoga and all, but you're doing something different. You want to talk about kind of that and why you find it so important and to incorporate it into your practice and what you do?
Yeah. So I love all the physical healing modalities, Joel. Like we touched on some of the fitness stuff, the nutrition, the sleep, the proper supplementation, changes in your environments, all that's great, man. But if you have some serious stuff going on mentally and emotionally, whether that's from past trauma, whether that's various limiting beliefs, whether that's just a lot of unhealthy relationships and past, baggage, emotional turmoil, your health is going to suffer. It's probably more so important to dial in your mind than it is the body, but they both go hand in hand, right? It's hard to be mentally well if you're not physically taking care of yourself, and vice versa. And so as I'm kind of going through my journey and helping people, I'm trying to figure out, what's the key? What's some good strategies to really unlock this? Like, I love talk therapy, but it's a slow and arduous process, and it doesn't work for everyone. I also see the value in plant medicine, but there's a high barrier of entry and some inherent risks to plant medicine. And while I think the research is very promising, and I think it provides tremendous benefit when used appropriately, not everyone wants to go do ayahuasca in the jungle, dude. Not everyone wants to take a bunch of psilocybin and see what happens. And not everyone can afford to go to these fancy, super high-end clinics where they do administer it under the care of a physician, and they do things right. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, what are some good options? And so this is going back quite a few years, maybe 2018 or 2019, I experienced my first holotropic breathwork class. And this is a very specific form of long rhythmic breathing. And so you mentioned Wim Hof. I had done some of that. You mentioned, I had done other types of breath work like Kundalini yoga, breath of fire, a lot of different relaxing breath work techniques as well, like box breathing and 4-7-8 breath, all these great modalities. So I go into this class, Joel, being like, breath work, this is going to be great. I freaking love breath work. I'm going to get high on my own supply. We're going to breathe. It's going to be great. And what I experienced over the following 45 minutes blew my freaking mind, dude. Like, I had never experienced anything like this in my entire life. And I had done some of these plant medicines. I had, been a little bit of a wild horse when it comes to some of the psychoactive compounds, but man, this breath work just unlocked things in my mind and allowed me to have this incredible release. And so going into it, I just open mind, I was like, I'm going to give it everything I got. And just to talk listeners through it, you're doing this rhythmic 3-part breath. I can't really properly give it justice on the podcast, but you're doing it for about 30 minutes straight, 25 to 30 minutes with, guided music and someone kind of facilitating the process, coaching you through it, all that sort of good stuff. And during this time, the very beginning is very challenging, but you really start to shift all these things in your body, and you start to go into a place of what's referred to technically called transient hyperfrontality. And that's a fancy way of saying that you slow down the overactivation of your frontal lobe. And that is where we have the ego, the monkey mind, all the inhibitions that don't want you to go to those dark places or let out a big cry or, think about things that are challenging and emotionally charged. And so you kind of bring that shield down and you're able to just go freaking deep, and it opens up your heart and you're able to really expand and release so much, man, physically, mentally, emotionally. You have this huge release. And so I left that class feeling like a new man. I was like, I don't know what just happened to me, but I need to learn everything I can about this experience, because it was one of the most powerful experiences I had ever had up until that point, hands down. And all I did was lay on the floor and breathe. I'm like, there's no lower barrier of entry than that. You don't got to buy anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You literally lie on the floor and breathe. I was like, why is this not being taught to people? Why is there not more awareness around breath work? And while, like you mentioned, some people are bringing different breathing practices to the mainstream, holotropic breathwork is still largely flown under the radar in its ability to help process emotions, to help really let go of a lot of regrets and resentment and anger and these really charged emotions that impact our day-to-day and impact our lives so dramatically. And so I've been guiding these classes online. And so people come do them from the comfort of their own home. I used to do them in person once upon a time before, the world was the way it is today. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Now I mostly do them online, and it's just a really powerful practice, man. I would love for you to partake in a class. Joel, have you ever done any holotropic breathwork?
I've done several different ones. I don't know if they're actually called holotropic. I don't know if it was introduced that way. I have done some rhythmic breath work with some practitioners and music, but I don't know if that was actually considered holotropic. It was very transformative. So, but I would love to come do an actual class with you and under like a live, remote live audience. That'd be awesome. Actually, it'd be better to even be in person with you one day, brother. But I'll take what I can. I'll take what I can get.
So with the online class, I host them live, and I have also some past classes people could check out. But there's more information on the page. It's one of those things, dude. It's really hard to explain. Yeah. And it's something you really just have to experience firsthand. And so I tell people, come in, give it an open mind. It's not going to cost you thousands of dollars. I mean, this class is next to free. I think I'm charging like $20 or $30. I mean, it's really affordable. And anyone that's going through financial hardship, if you send me an email, I'll give you free access, because I don't want lack of funds to prevent anyone from experiencing this practice that's been so transformative and life-changing for me, and also for hundreds and hundreds of students I've led through these classes. So I don't want like a $25 class fee deter anyone. So if you're like, yeah, I'd love to do this, Ryan, but I don't want to pay you a penny. I'm like, cool, do it. Give it everything you got, and I'll give you free access. Like that's not why I'm doing these classes. So that's, I hope that answers your question in a really long way, Joel, about the breathwork angle of how I came to it, and why I continue to build it in as a key part of my practice and my work with people.
No, and I'm glad you said that, because I can tell just from the way you built your practice, you can tell you're only doing things that are working, and you're seeing good effects, not only yourself, but your clients. So that's why I ask. And I love that you brought up the point of just emotions, right? And limiting beliefs and resentment. Yeah. Like, how much does that connect to our overall being and our vital force and how we show up in the world? Like, you might have, and we talk about, chi and meridians. And if you've got a trapped emotion or something, they always talk about that in the Eastern philosophy a lot, I don't care how much biofilm disruptors Ryan's giving you, you may still not heal because it's just, you've got something trapped going on you, and it's crazy. And so I love that you also blend that in with your practice. It's great. People, that's amazing.
And the mindset, you know this too, Joel, the mindset is key, because if you don't, another powerful thing about this breath work is it gives you clarity and helps you really relinquish a lot of these limiting beliefs. And that's what holds people back in their health or weight loss journey. So a lot of people have in their minds that they can't do this or that, or they've tried this in the past and failed, or this doesn't work. And when you start to really build the foundation from the mindset, all the habits and routines and physical practices become exponentially easier to implement, to sustain, and to really create lasting change. So that's another reason I'm a huge proponent of it, is like, you got to start with the foundation, man. You got to start with the mind.
Yeah. And like Ryan said, it's hard to explain. I can only tell people, go do it, pay the $25, whatever it is. It's going to be worth it. You will get something out of it. I promise. I know we're running up close. A couple more questions for you. Any exciting projects that you're working on right now? I'm just curious. You're a busy guy. You got a lot of things you're doing. Anything?
Yeah, couple exciting things. We'll see how things come to fruition. I host retreats out in Bali in this amazing resort called the Astana. And the last one we did was in 2020, before, the world kind of flipped upside down. And so we've had multiple of these retreats, and we had some scheduled, we had to postpone. And so I'm really hoping that we can get into the country. They're slowly starting to, waive their quarantine and, starting to welcome people back in to Bali. And so I'm really hoping to get one of those in the books later this year. And this is a 5-day immersive retreat. We call it the Health Optimization Retreat. And it's just in this cliffside resort that has all the best of the best stuff in terms of, state-of-the-art gym, infrared sauna, steam room, cold plunge, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, float tanks. Gosh, man, it's just like a total biohacking health optimization place, all like right on the ocean with, incredible organic food. And so it's a great time that we just kind of guide a small group of, I think we had 24, we capped it at 24 people the last few retreats, where we got them through and they're able to enjoy the beautiful paradise in Southeast Asia while also improving their health and learning a bunch of cool stuff and doing it in a very immersive environment. We do the breath work and we do, guided yoga classes and all sorts of good stuff of that nature. So that's something that's not yet solidified, but I'm hoping to get another one of those in the books, because it's such a joy for me to go out there, and I have a bunch of my best buds that live out there. So it's always good to reconnect with that side of the world.
Yeah, sounds terrible. Who'd want to go do that?
I know, right?
That's awesome. You got time for some lightning round questions I wanted to ask you?
Let's do it, man.
All right. If the old you could see the new you, what would the new you say?
New me would say.
What would the new you say to your older self?
Oh, okay. I see now. I was like a little confused by the question. I think I would say to embrace learning, because I think conventional schooling really gives us a resistance to reading and learning, because we're forced to do it on subjects we really don't really like or care about. And I've gotten to a place over the last many years now where I have such a thirst for learning, and I love devouring podcasts like yours, Joel, audiobooks, reading articles, looking at research. I mean, this is what I do in my free time because I love this shit, dude.
Yeah.
And I think if I just told my younger self one piece of advice, it'd be find what you want to learn and just go head deep into that. Because if I had this association like, I don't want to have to read a book. I already got to read books for, my classes in history and English and, all this BS that we're taught to learn and force fed in the conventional school system. So that's a big thing I think would have shifted a lot of things for me earlier on.
Huge. I'm glad you said that. I mean, and that's one of the reasons we just started homeschooling my kid and, or unschooling him, one could say. So I love that you said that. What are some choices that you think you made that made you who you are today?
Well, the way I processed my mom's death was a big one, because I know that the age I was, the lack of parental guidance, as much as I love my dad, he really wasn't there for me in a meaningful way during that time. So I was like, 16-year-old dude that, I think a lot of young guys would have gone off and got into drugs and, heavy partying. And, while that was a tiny bit of a blip in the journey, I feel like I was able to really see the bigger picture and was able to really carve a path that I'm really happy about where I'm at and the trajectory I'm going. And while I have a lot of work left to do and a lot of progress left to make, I'm really blessed to be doing something I love and doing something that's impacting people's lives. And I think that was a pretty big decision at a time when, I wasn't making a lot of other good decisions, Joel.
Well, I mean, we know, like, you were 16, like,
Yeah.
I always think like your brain wasn't even developed till like you're 25. Like
Yeah.
you were doing the best you could, and no doubt. And like, look at where you are. I totally can see, like, yeah, it's interesting because that moment, I think a couple of things happened. You embraced learning moving forward after that.
Yep.
And you again turn your pain into purpose, and look at who you are now. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, what a choice that was, a choiceless choice, and you made it. You are such a force in the health and wellness world. I'm curious, who inspires you?
Oh, I have a lot of inspirations. Are you talking more so like
More in the
generally like in the health and wellness space?
Yeah. Is there anybody that like you follow, or there's just anybody that, really, inspires you? And, I know there's lots of people out there that just make me want to sharpen my sword and get better. I watch them.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of people like that who are reaching a lot of people and who I really look up to. Some great authors and podcasters that I'm a big fan of. So from the get-go, I came across Joe Mercola's work, Dr. Mercola. He's a pioneer, dude. That guy's just a trailblazer. He's been in it from the get-go, and I haven't seen anyone take as many arrows as that dude from the mainstream media, from all the, parties that are not interested in people being healthy. So he's just someone I really look up to, really respect, really admire, who I've learned a great deal from, and who just continues to push forward despite the threats, despite the, smear campaigns against him. Yeah. He's like, this is what I stand for. This is what I'm sharing. And the dude is he's the man. So that's, to pick one person, I'd pick Dr. Mercola.
That's a great one. Joe's a badass. I'm a big reader. So are you now? Any books? Are there like the top 1 to 3 books that just jump out of your mind that like had a huge impact on your life, and you'd say, you should probably, if you're listening to this episode, you should probably read some of these books?
Oh man, Joel, this is like asking me my favorite foods. It's like, there's so many good ones, but in terms of like personal development, I mean, there's business. I really like a book called The Road Less Stupid. Really excellent. That shifted my mind in a lot of positive ways on a business front. Man, if I had my library in front of me, I could rattle off like 40 good ones, but I'm in the spot. You're like, oh crap.
I know. No, I know. There's so many good ones.
Health. There's a couple of good ones. I think it just depends on your entry level. So entry level, like again, Dr. Mercola's book, like Effortless Healing. That was a book I read like early on in my path. I was like, this is the perfect blueprint for anyone that's just looking to get started and figure some basic stuff out.
Yep.
But then the books I read now really wouldn't serve the average person.
Way more technical, I'm sure.
Exactly. So it wouldn't be that interesting to be diving deep into the research on that front. Personal development. I mean, those are probably the bulk of the books I read because I really like that type of stuff. And it always gets me in a good headspace. And I read a lot about investing and finances and wealth these days.
Good.
Just read a good one called The Lifestyle Investor, like finished a couple of days ago. I love Grant Cardone's books, like from a mindset and business perspective. He's a controversial character, but man, that guy, I respect the hell out of him.
Yeah. Nice. A couple more questions. We'll wrap it up. Any rituals or hacks or practices that you do on a regular basis?
Oh, there's so many, Joel. Sunshine. Sunshine would probably be at the top of the list, man. I get outside first thing in the morning, get my eyes out, anchor that circadian rhythm, bask in the sunshine. But I'm a huge sun fanatic in terms of just getting out. No sunscreen, no sunglasses. Sensible sun exposure is like the number one thing I just absolutely preach and love, because it's just so much disservice has gone into the Dermatology Institute telling people to fear the sun. And I think it's really, we're solar powered animals, and it really lights up our entire system to get, safe sun exposure. Yeah. And so that's a big thing. There's lots of other things we could dive into. Breathing techniques I do daily, a lot of different habits and things I've incorporated into my evening or morning routines and stuff like that. But if I had to choose one, it'd be sunshine.
Love it, brother. Last but not least, where can people find you?
RyanKennedyHealth.com is probably the easiest way to get, kind of website, social handles are on there. Ryan C. Kennedy is Instagram, But if you just go to the main website, ryankennedyhealth.com, you'll be able to kind of branch out to, Facebook or YouTube or, the podcast. That's been my latest joy. Joel, I'm gonna have to get you on my show. We're gonna have to coordinate another interview here. But my latest avenue of content that I'm really doubling down on is my podcast, which I've had going for a little over a year now. I think we're up to like 50 or 60 episodes, but moving into this next year, that's like my main focus, because I'm just getting so over the censorship and nonsense on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And so I'm like, the podcast is great. I love audio mediums because you can listen while you're working out or driving or cooking or whatever, you can multitask and still learn. And so I am actively doing a lot more on there and releasing a few episodes a week. And so it's the Ryan Kennedy Show. You can find it from the website. You can find it on any podcast platform, but that's definitely been my preferred outlet for creating helpful information for people.
Yeah, and Ryan has a great Instagram page as well. I will just say that if you go to there, he's got a lot of great information and videos. So you do a great job there as well, I have to say. But man, Ryan Kennedy, thanks for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Joel. Right back at you, man.